Hey everyone, welcome back to another Facebook Live interview here at the Spine Health Foundation. I'm your host, Erica Anderson, and today we are kicking off our research month, meaning we are celebrating all the research we were doing here at the Spine Health Foundation in partnership with so many doctors across the country and with the Virginia Spine Institute. And we have with us today someone to talk about that. And that person is Lindsay Orosz. She's the Senior Manager of Clinical Studies at the Spine Health Foundation. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's so great to be here. It's kind of like a whole month of highlighting all the things I do all year round. So it's exciting for me.
Yes. Well, we were talking recently, the team here at Spine Health, and we were thinking, we were talking about how many wonderful research projects we do and how much great stuff we are doing behind the scenes. And we don't talk about it enough. And it's such an important part of what we do and such an important part of spine health because all of that research is contributing to, better ways of doing surgery, faster recoveries, and all of these things. And so we were like, okay, February, we're just going to focus on research and that's what we're going to do. So thank you for coming. We know you know a lot more about it than I do. So I have a few questions for you so we can just inform people about some of the great stuff that we are doing with our research side of things. So before we launch into some of those, tell us a little bit more about what you do for the foundation and what makes you interested in being a part of the research side of things.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, my long, scary title is Senior Manager of Clinical Studies, which really just means all things research. Everything that has to do with it comes through me. I'm aware of everything. I have my hand in everything. I manage everything. There's a lot of little bits and pieces that go into all of the rules and regulations and following everything and then seeing it all through. And so I basically have my hand in all of that. SHF really functions as a study sponsor, and that's different from a study site. And so a site is the place where the surgeon works and where they treat their patients and where the data is collected. The sponsor is really the manager of the study. And so if an investigator or surgeon comes up with an idea, they need someone to help them put that idea into motion. And so there are a lot of precursor steps that go into designing a study, and that's what the sponsor does. Once the study is designed and all of the regulations are, all the boxes are checked and we have all of the approvals that we need, then the data collection can begin. That also needs to be kind of managed to make sure we're doing it properly. It takes a lot of different people doing different things to collect the items that we need, depending on what we're studying. And then once we get all of the data, which takes a while to collect, then it needs to be analyzed. And so the sponsor can help with that. Once you have your end result, then we have to decide what to do with that. So the sponsor also helps with sort of submitting the result, the information to national meetings where it can be presented to other spine surgeons, or medical journals where it can be published in a journal and other people can read it and reference it. And so the sponsor in NSHF really helps propel that with different centers across the nation.
Okay, and now if you could just give us a peek into what are some of the things that we've been working on, some of the projects that are in the works or that are currently ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, what is cool to study and fun to study are the latest and greatest technologies in spine. Spine surgeons, they like to utilize these tools. They're great. And then we need to assess, does this work? Is this something worth doing? Is it worth the cost? Does it help patients? And so the two probably most exciting areas to research are robotics and augmented reality. And both of these things are similar in that they are tools that the surgeons use during surgery. So it changes the process of surgery. The hope is that it makes it more reproducible, more faster, safer, those types of things. And so we take these tools, we set up what we're going to study and measure, and what we really want to see is, does that translate into better patient outcomes? Does a more minimally invasive surgery with less tissue disruption with either augmented reality or a robot help the patient recover faster, leave the hospital sooner, get back to their life quicker, take less pain pills for it? And those are the types of technologies that we study. We're also studying, kind of on the flip side of that, how patients recover using different medications. I like to call this the modernization of recovery after surgery. So ERAS or ESR is enhanced recovery after surgery. That's kind of the long name, but basically what that is treating pain from multiple different aspects, rather than just saying, okay, spine surgery is painful, take a bunch of narcotics, let's see what happens. It's what are the things that cause pain, and how can we treat those individual items in addition to pain medicine to reduce pain, but overall take less pain pills, and then recover patients faster, walk faster, leave the hospital faster, gain control of your urinary system, your GI tract, all those things that slow down after surgery. How can we speed up the recovery? The surgeries are more minimally invasive and are modernized. Why shouldn't the recovery be? And we really want to focus on the research on, does this work? And so that's something that's separate from technology. And then I think maybe the third category is artificial intelligence. We're looking at, can we use a medical imaging analysis tool to make some of the really critical measurements that surgeons make on x-rays to understand patients' spinal alignment. Alignment is probably one of the most important things having to do with why patients have pain and how things degenerate and what changes over time and with age. And understanding that alignment is really based on making a bunch of geometric measurements on an x-ray, and that's time consuming. And there can also be some measurement error. Humans aren't perfect. And so the idea behind that study is, can we train an artificial intelligence to learn how to make these measurements in a more accurate way, so that the surgeons can take the time and spend it with their patients instead of making all these measurements. And then probably the last little subset is regenerative medicine. It's a treatment for spine problems. It's not spine surgery. Can we use the body's healing properties like stem cells and growth factors and healing cells to help repair some of the cracks and tears in the discs? And so that's another area that we're working on. So you can see the foundation has its hands in every aspect of making patients' lives better.
Yeah, I love that idea, or just that thought that you brought up about making the measurements more precise with a robot. Like, I hadn't thought of that before, and that's such a cool thing to think about, because that precision will, of course, ultimately result in better treatment, faster recovery, and all of those things. Well, obviously, research takes money. And I didn't specifically sort of prepare you for this question. It sort of came to mind, though. If you can speak to it, if you can't, no worries. But when it comes to funding, like, what does the bulk of the funding go to? Is it to pay the researchers? Is it to get the equipment that's necessary to do the research? What can you tell people about that?
Yeah, so research, doesn't happen without costs, just like everything else. I mean, you've heard me talk about all these things. How does that happen? And so funding, it's really kind of dispersed throughout all these different areas. It helps with the setup. Once you have the idea is free, you come up with the idea, but then you have to see it through. And so, bringing the concept to life costs money. Designing how you're going to collect the data costs money. The data collection itself, not just how you're going to do it, but then actually doing it. There's a lot of time and effort, and so many people have involvement in it that it really does cost. Then once you've done all those things, someone has to analyze it. You need a statistician with lots of experience to understand these things and put it together. And then again, going to disseminate or disperse the information, that costs money. But it really takes a special kind of surgeon and investigator to think it's not enough to just say, I know this treatment works because my patients are getting better. Yay, I go home at night and I feel good. But to then say, how do I reach other people? How do I reach the people that don't live near me, that can't come see me and will never know me. And that's through research. By proving that treatments work, it opens the doors to access to other patients and other surgeons doing other things. And it really helps. And so it all costs money to do this. The funding is so important.
Yeah. And, something I've thought about is just sometimes it almost seems easier to get funding for, say you're thinking of the American Cancer Society, because some of those stories are so much more, I guess, clear and obvious, whereas spine and back pain and neck pain, it can be kind of vague sometimes, and all these different various conditions. So, that's just another reason that we wanted to spotlight the research, is just because, we know that 100 million people have back and neck pain in this country. And, statistics like the fact that it's the number one reason people miss work and all of these things. So pretty much everyone, if they are not personally affected, someone in their family is affected. And so the more research that we can do on this, it's going to help the nation health-wise, and then also the economy, because it costs so much money. So there's only benefits to all of this research we're doing. Now, you mentioned, of course, the idea is free. So speaking of the idea, how do we choose? How do we narrow it down on what we actually are going to focus on?
Yeah, I think this really comes from great investigators that you work with. So we have all these centers that we partner with around the country, and they see firsthand what they're doing in terms of treatments, and again, decide that they want to prove what is in their gut. I know this works. How do I prove it? We have to have numbers. We have to have data. And so it really takes the investigator to come up with an idea, and then the sponsor helps to make that happen. And so we really rely on all of these experts that we work with to help us with that.
Okay, got it. So last question for you, Lindsay. You've been working in the world of spine for a really long time. You were a PA for quite some time, and you've been working with the Virginia Spine Institute and the Spine Health Foundation for many years. So can you talk a little bit about how you've seen research actually make a difference in the lives of patients?
Yeah, so it's been, I try to make the calculations in my head about almost 15 years that I've been working as a PA.
You have to think about how old you are.
I know. So that's a long time. And I always say this, but spine surgery is probably one of the fastest growing, advancing areas in medicine, in surgery, just out there. It just is. The technology for spine continues to vastly improve every year. And so over 15 years, you can imagine how different things looked from then to now, in the OR with patients, seeing them recover in the hospital, in clinic. I've seen some real changes in terms of what we can do for people, how minimally invasive we can do that, how much faster we can get them better, more predictably. Spine surgery, can be so scary for some patients. For so long, the results were unpredictable and there were bad stories, and now there's more good stories than bad stories, and now people know someone that had a good spine surgery. But when I first started, everyone knew someone who had a bad outcome or a bad story. And so I think that as the technology has changed, we have to understand that research drives innovation, and I've really seen that, more opportunities for patients to get what they need, and people that thought maybe there wasn't anything for them, well, now there is. And so and maybe it's not surgery, maybe it's regenerative medicine. There's so many different things over the course of my career that have changed, and really research has driven that, and we want to help drive that, because innovation is really hope for our patients, our viewers, the people we're reaching.
No, that's such a great point about surgery, because you're right, you do hear the horror stories, or you did hear them more. And I had such a positive experience with having back surgery myself, that it's hard for me to relate to that. And I think, people should recognize the fact that things have changed since even, 5-10 years ago. It's getting better all the time. It's really incredible how fast the innovation is changing, and the recovery times are improving, and what people are figuring out. And it's all really leading back to research. So if you are watching and you see this now or later, please do your research and talk to your doctors about, what the risks are, and what, surgery or another kind of treatment could do for you. We don't want anyone to live in pain. That's sort of why we exist. We're here for patients. So Lindsay, thank you so much for helping us kick off Research Month, and everyone that's watching. We will be interviewing surgeons throughout the month. We're going to have an interview tomorrow at 11 a.m. with a doctor that's also involved in research. And then we're going to have content and all kinds of stuff. So if you have any questions, let us know. Thank you so much for being here, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thanks so much. Bye, Erica. Bye.